All right. So, welcome to Yanking Chains, episode 5, a podcast where we talk about everything endurance. I'm Matt Momont.
Oh, is it my turn? I'm Vince Mateo.
I'm Maria Simone, and we are trying to structure it up here.
Oh, yeah.
In this very structured episode, we will be talking about the off season and what we do, and are some tips for coping with the off season blues and structuring your off season to be ready for next year. So, Maria, you want to kick us off with some off season tips?
Yeah, sure. So I thought about this topic because I have a Facebook group that I use with my clients, and we've been talking a lot about the off season and what do we do in the off season, and is it really off? Because no, it's not really off. So a few things that I thought we could kick around today are, the ways in which you'd evaluate the race season you just finished, to kind of figure out where you want to go moving forward. Talking a little bit about avoiding burnout, and not putting too much into your off season and trying to race in your off season and all that kind of stuff, and so you kind of burn yourself out. Talking a little bit about strength training as well, I think, because it's a good opportunity to put in some strength work that maybe you didn't have time for with the volume and the intensity, and talking about like doing something other than swim, bike, run. I know it sounds crazy, but those are my thoughts.
Sounds good. Do you want to kick us off on any of those? Maybe you want to start off analyzing last year?
Yeah, okay. So I think a good place to start when you're thinking about what to do now moving forward, the off season is a good time to work on your limiters, or the things that maybe need to be better and aren't quite as good as they could be. So, going back and looking at your race season, if you have a coach, this is a good opportunity to ask that person what they think, and what they see. Wow, imagine that. Talk to the person you're paying to do this stuff for you. That would be awesome. So yeah, going through some of your races, also looking at some of the, whether you use the reports and Training Peaks, or whether you use WKO, or whether you use good old-fashioned Excel spreadsheets, or all three, which I like to do. Vince has taught me well. I've got like all the different ways to do the data analysis. But you should go back to that and look and see where you are. You can also do sort of placement analysis in the field, like where are you typically placing lower. If you're me, it's always the bike. It's always the bike at the bottom of the bike. So you can go back to that and sort of see where you want to start, and what you want to work on. For a lot of triathletes, it's off season means swim, right? Most of us need to kind of work on our swim, so that's something you could do. For those of you that are weak in running, this is a good time to think about maybe some incorporating some running drills and those types of things into your training. But I would look at your race season that just passed and figure out where to start.
Vince, what are you doing for your? Let's talk about you personally. What are you doing in your off season? How are you looking back on this year? And what do you think you
Personally,
need?
well, let's roll back even further than that. So for a while, I kind of, especially when I started like getting faster, I felt like, oh, I can't take an off season because I'm going to lose all this fitness. And I strung together 3 years like that, and I was just, so convinced that, and I hear this from a lot of athletes, like, I got to keep going, got to keep going. It's like, no, actually, you don't. And one season, at the end of it, I snapped. I was like, I have to take a break, and I basically took this long break of nothing. Maybe did some running in there, but no swimming and biking. And then when January rolled around, I just assumed that I was going to be, 3 years back in fitness. And in about a month, I was, already seeing like the numbers that I was seeing at the end of the last season. And so after that, I just figured, it's cool to take that break. And, now I actually just look forward to it. For a while, I was thinking, the off season for people in general would be, a time, like Maria said, to work on specific things. But now I'm actually taking a different approach. I think if, as long as there's something that's not, not horribly wrong, I think you need to run in the off season. And sorry, no, and I would do that for you anyway. I know you guys are coming up on the marathon or whatever. But I'm thinking, even, you know everybody else, unless there's just something really obviously wrong, like a somebody that's looking for the cutoff on an Ironman swim, then we're going to do swim focus. But everybody else, I think running. And I just think, as I'm looking at the field, I'm watching how fast the runners are getting, and so I'm just kind of looking ahead, to see where I think everybody's going, and I just think everybody needs to work on their run. I don't know.
Maria, how do you feel about that?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I think it probably depends on the level of athlete. I think I probably work with a few more beginners than Vince does. So um, I think he's right that when you're talking about people at the pointy end of the stick, the athletes that I have working on them, I've recommended marathons to all of them. So I do think that, when you're talking about being competitive, having that run durability is pretty important. For more beginner-oriented athletes, or even sort of these intermediate athletes, which maybe they want to get faster, maybe they want to get to the top end of their age group, I do think for some of them, I like to work on their skills, and spend some time doing that, because they don't quite have that foundation that they need yet to get to some of those faster times.
Could you real quick
So I
clarify?
think the level of the athlete really does probably make a difference, but at least it does for me. Yeah.
Could you clarify what you mean by beginner or intermediate? Who do you just maybe
Like
times
first season of triathlon
Okay.
is a beginner to me. And I do work with quite a few people who have either just finished their first season of triathlon or have just signed on and are about to do their first season of triathlon. And maybe in some cases, some of them are coming directly off the couch. It kind of depends on where they're at. In terms of intermediate, I would probably classify somebody as intermediate. They have a few years of experience. We're not necessarily starting at here's how you breathe in the pool, here's what a single leg drill is, here's what I mean by big gear. It kind of, I think it means, you've got some knowledge under you, and you're moving and you've got some goals moving forward, in terms of speed or whatever. But I don't necessarily, beginner for me doesn't equate to speed. It literally means like I'm new to this, like maybe first or even second season. Like it kind of depends on what that first season is, and how much you know.
Yeah, that's interesting because it's like when you say beginner, it's like you could have somebody that's just a ringer in their first season, and that's not necessarily beginner, but it's somebody that I think is, when you look at what are their limiters, it's like everything is a limiter. It's like endurance, speed, everything. And you're right. I'm actually looking more towards kind of that front of the pack, or soon to be front of the pack kind of group right now. I was looking at, you remember last year I wrote that piece on like 1025, and I was saying this is where everybody needs to be. Well, I was looking at that again, and I was looking at the numbers from the females, and that seemed to be pretty on, spot on. And the thing that seemed most surprising to me this year is the runs. Like the people that are like winning the age group, or even the top 5, the runs are really fast. And it's like I would look at, I ran 3:19. That's my fastest run off the bike, and I was like looking at people that were running faster than that, and I thought that was a fast time. And now I'm scared. Like if I came back, and I would want to be sharper than that. And I've even like started like building a plan, for like a 2:55 marathon, not off the bike, but just in general, and what that would look like. And I just think that that front of the pack group, they really need to start like sharpening up their marathon.
How do you feel about people saying that when you to get a fast run you have to be stronger on the bike? Wouldn't people want to get their bike strength up in the off season for that?
They sure would, but there's some limiters too. Maria, one of the problems that Maria has is it's hard for her to find a bike that can fit her. So she'd have to get on 650C wheels, and then that brings up a whole other set of problems. Her and John share wheels and things like that. And I coach another athlete, her and her husband. She's 5'3" and he is 6'2", and they share wheels, so she can't get 650C wheels. So they're always going to have just even an aerodynamic problem. And it's not that she's not strong on the bike; it's just that there are things that are working against her. And absolutely, I mean, you could be a 2:30 marathoner and not ride your bike, and you're still going to have a crappy run. But I'm saying, it's a well-rounded athlete, or somewhat a well-rounded athlete. I just think, right now I would be working on a marathon right now.
Nice. So Maria, what else besides running?
Well, I do think, again, just kind of going back to this durability piece, I do think bike durability is probably pretty important, and I think the kind of athlete that Vince is talking about already has that level of durability. If you're out there and you're listening to this and you're thinking, I'm not really sure how durable I am on the bike, or if you're a good runner and every time you do an Ironman or a half Ironman you're fading in the run, something's going on, right? So it's either your bike durability, or you're either over biking, or your bike durability isn't right, or your nutrition's wackadoodle-doo. I would say maybe a combination of all of those things.
Yeah.
But
dissecting that's a lot, but
yeah, but I do think, I'm just going to speak about my particular case. Like, I think when Vince and I were working together, it took a while to build the kind of bike durability I needed to get off the bike and be able to run the way I can run. And part of it, certainly, my bike time, certainly part of it is a limiter of there's only just so aero I can get on some of these bikes with the bigger wheels. But I also think part of it was I just needed a lot of bike volume to be able to hold that durability, so that when I got off the bike I wasn't feeling tanked. Like when I did Lake Placid in 2013, I overbiked. I actually, ironically enough, Vince, I was going to send you an email, but I knew we'd be talking. I went back and I looked at some of my comments past. I was such a sad little sack. But I looked at some of my comments after that Lake Placid in 2013, and I looked at the data again with like the 2015 eyes and like none of the emotion, because it's all over now, right? And I'm like, holy crap, I overbiked the shit out of that course. Like, I was just like, what was I thinking? I was like way above my pay grade, but there's the women that were first and second were so far ahead of me, and I'm thinking to myself, it doesn't matter what my run is if I can't keep them sort of close. I mean, the long story short, the last 10K I really faded because I didn't have that ability to hold that bike effort. So we spent time working on that, but we also, that year, Vince let me do a 50K in the trails, which was like a gift from the gift from the heavens, and that was a lot of fun, and I think that also did help. So bike durability is a piece of it, but once you've gotten the basic bike durability, you have to have that run ability too. And then that year running in 2014, it was like every time I put my feet to the pavement, it was like magic. And I think that 50K, and it's not the race, it's the training for the race. It's the race is just the celebration of that, right? You get to do this 50K, but it was all the extra running that we did, I think, was a big piece of it. So if you're looking to get closer to the front of your age group, which I'm just kind of at the back of the front, I guess, the way I sort of think about it, I think putting those pieces together are pretty important, and thinking about where you are and what your multi-season plan is, right? Like, so if you're thinking in 2016 I'm going for Kona, you have to think about, like, well, where are you? Do you have all these other pieces? Can you swim? Yeah, you're not gonna lose it in the swim, but if you're swimming, if you're a female and you're swimming over a 110, you gotta bring it on the bike and the run. You could certainly put yourself way out of the pack. Although I certainly do know people who swim slower than that, who do bring it on the bike and the run, and they're fine. But you have to think about that. Same thing with the bike. Do you have that kind of durability that's going to allow you to run like a 3:30 marathon? And I'm using female times because that's what makes sense to me, right? Or even faster than a 3:30, right? 3:20s. We're seeing those kinds of times as well. Like Vince said, it's just getting progressively faster. So you have to think about how to put that together. On the other side of the spectrum, like I said, I work with a lot of athletes, not a lot, but I would say Well, yeah, a lot. A good portion of my clients are not necessarily looking to podium or looking to place. They're looking to build skills. So you have to really be honest about where you are and what your short-term goals are. And so by short-term, I'm talking like the 2016 season. And then where do you think you want to go past that 2016 season and set yourself up for that? Again,
Yeah.
Vince and I working together, we did that. Like we planned it out. When I came to him, I was like, yeah, I do like 13-hour Ironmans. I want to get to Kona. And he was like, okay.
Yeah. But see, it's interesting because obviously say, oh, I want to qualify for Kona, and so if you're starting out or whatever, that immediately is thinking beyond like next year.
Yeah.
But when you're looking at your own season, like most people right now are probably just looking at 2016. I'm actually looking beyond that.
Yep.
Because the things that I'm doing are so much bigger than Ironman. And the goals are so much bigger. I'm thinking like a few years out right now, and just thinking, all right, well, in 2016, this is what I want to do, this is what I want to accomplish, but the end game is more like 2017, 2018. And that's and
Do you
I
have any
think
hints for us what that's going to be in 2017 or 2018?
well, yeah, I guess so.
You can't just leave us out there.
He
I
is, not me. I was going to let it be your super secret goal, but
Okay,
No, that's fine. We'll put it out there. I'll talk shit. That's fine. So I want to be as good at hundreds as I was at Ironman.
Oh man, how good is that?
I don't. I mean, I'm not going to win one, but I want to. Again, it's always my version of win, right? So and even like within a season. So when I first, so if I was somebody that was starting out, my version of win might be, like a half Ironman, like a sub-5 half Ironman, because that was like when I first started out, and I was real serious about it. I was like, all right, that's like the first target, and then and then Ironman, it's sub-10, and you do these things like for you, it's sub-3 marathon, right? Oh.
that's gonna hurt.
Don't make fun of it. Don't make
Oh,
fun of my goals.
threw
You're
that.
supposed to be supportive.
I threw that. No. I'm throwing that out. I'm not. Oh, you kidding, dude? My marathon was 2:59:43. So
that's what
odds
I'm
are,
doing. That's right.
if you go under 3, odds are you're going to beat mine.
Don't have to go very far.
You don't.
You just see 2 on that. 2 on the clock. Well, we'll talk about that. That's in a week and a half. So thanks for putting the pressure on.
Yeah. Dun
Awesome.
dun dun.
Next podcast is all about the sub-3.
Yeah. So anyway,
God.
but it's just you got to start thinking. What's my version of win in this season, and then what's my ultimate version of win. And for me it was winning my age group. That was my ultimate goal. I have no more Ironman goals to check off except silly ones like qualify for Boston and Kona. Can you
do this?
Yeah, you can.
Yeah.
That counts as a qualifier.
It does.
It's the only
And so
Ironman that does.
that's my thing is
crazy.
I want to be
that
like
would
at
hurt.
Boston Marathon because everybody's like, well, where did you qualify? I'm gonna be like Kona Ironman World Championship, yo, because that's the kind of dick that I am.
A little. Okay, one thing I want to write down is that we should have a segment where Vince reads things Maria has written to him in her journal.
That would be
No.
hilarious. So many curse words.
It might not be politically correct. It might have a lot of swearing.
I'm gonna say right now, there's a lot of like bitches and you suck. Why do you hate me? This
There's
is
gonna be a
fucking
lot of
hard.
profanity.
Jeez.
I don't
Very
know if you
emotional.
meant it to be, but this is fucking hard. I actually think that would be freaking hilarious because I was going back and look at some of my old logs and I was making myself laugh. I can't believe you had to read that shit. They were novels, Matt. You can't even imagine. Full blown 10 paragraphs of shit in the training.
Well, it
Peaks
sounds like we got a lot of material. This sounds like a good option.
She has set the bar high for other people, and they're like trying to exceed it, and I'm like, no, you don't understand. You got to raise the bar a little higher than that to go above Miss Cray Cray. like, I don't understand.
Oh my god! You know what is so funny though? It could be worse. I could say nothing, and you would never know. Like you were never curious about how it went for me. So it's pretty clear about how things were. But that's a fun segment, man. I think we should try that.
Yeah, I'm okay.
I'm like trying to see my
I want to
training
know what
peaks
your
right now.
comments are, though. I'm curious about your comments, Matt. But that's all right.
Morning, 8:15 a.m. Banana, water.
Yeah.
Mine were
Kind of
nothing
hard.
like that.
Look in mirror. Don't feel pretty today.
Bad hair day. Did not run
Oh.
fast.
And then there goes the structure.
All right, structure. Back to structure.
No, I don't know. It's okay. I'm just kidding.
I'm just going to workouts near Lake Placid.
Oh God, the ones after would be like the saddest story ever told. Or they're after Coeur d'Alene. Oh my God.
Oh man, I can't wait.
There's nothing worse than like realizing you missed a slot by 90 seconds on the nose. That sucked. Those were sad comments.
Pretty sad.
Pretty sad story.
I have a question.
Let's move
back
on.
to
Let's
our
talk about
structure.
something else. Let's talk about
Back to structure. So we talked to Vince says, okay, so we talked about a lot of things, but Vince says just to run a marathon, which I've been doing for the past 2 years and seemed to have helped me quite a bit,
Yeah.
at least mentally. I don't know. It's really nice to run fast for once as opposed to like jogging a marathon, kind of shuffling. But how do you fit all this? And you wrote a lot of things down here, like plyometrics, TRX, core.
Yeah,
Do
so
you
I put
lift?
some. Yeah, so one of the
When do you
comments.
do all this?
Yeah, so well, you don't do all of them, right? Again, this goes back to kind of.
Okay.
Oh, I was
don't
going to
do
do
all
all
of
of them tonight.
You don't do all of them. This again goes back to kind of the athlete, right? So and where they are. But I am a pretty strong believer in strength training, and when I say strength training, I don't necessarily mean picking up heavy things and putting them down. Strength training, although that can be part of it. Again,
I pick things up and put them down.
this depends on the athlete. I mean, for masters athletes and for female athletes in particular, picking things up and putting them down is actually pretty important because of in particular for females, it's a bone density issue. It's also, as we get older, for masters athletes, we're losing muscle mass, and so doing some sort of resistance-based strength training can help slow down that process. You're not going to reverse it; it's a done deal, right? But you can slow it down.
When would you do it in this season then?
Yeah, so for me, I do strength work all season long. I consider like my core work strength work as well. Right, so you can see in that list I put, so for you guys listening, we use Google Docs, and we just have a list of things that we're talking about. So I put core in that list as well. So for me, I do strength work all year round. It just kind of depends on, that was John, he did photobomb.
Yeah, he's telling you, shut up, Maria. Shut up.
Don't listen to TV. I know, it's late over here on the East Coast. But yeah, so I do it all year round. But this time of year, when the volume drops and the intensity drops, I like to bring a little bit more strength-based training in because you have time for it, and you're not necessarily quite as concerned about the recovery you need from some of these strength-based things. Plyometrics in particular, you have to be really careful with when you put them in. If you're doing a lot of running or a lot of high-intensity running, that's not the time to be doing plyometrics. The last time we talked too, we talked a little bit about my tire dragging episodes, but that wasn't those weren't the only strength work that I did. I did these things that I called negatives, and people that lift weights, I'm sure you do this kind of stuff, but you basically slow the motion as much as you can when you're working with gravity, right? So when the weight wants to drop, naturally you slow that as much as you can, and then when you're working against gravity, you're working really hard with a forceful boom, right? Like a oomph, right? So if you're doing a squat, nice and slow down, and then boom up, right? Like those kind of things. So I did a lot of that kind of stuff going into the 100, and I've done that in the past too, but I think that really works a lot for some of my specific limiters. Like one of the woman that I work with who started teaching me some of this stuff, she said I don't have a lot of boom, which is right. I don't, right? Like I can go all day long, nice and slow, nice and steady. Do not ask me to sprint. It's terrible, right? So I don't have a lot of boom. So I use the strength work to kind of support some of that boom And I think it's definitely worked. We also have a TRX here at our house. That I'll do as you move a little bit closer to the season, because I can do a nice TRX thing in about 20-30 minutes. It gets my core, gets my strength, does all that kind of stuff. This time of year, though, I'm moving more into picking things up and putting them down.
So you're not trying to find your 1-rep squat max on race week?
No, I don't ever try to find my 1-rep squat max.
I don't think I've ever done that, not in a long time.
See, before I met Vince, I lifted. I tried to lift in the off season, but I haven't been in the weight room in forever. How do you feel about that, Vince? Why don't I lift?
Because you're running a marathon.
Because you're running a marathon, and we haven't really broken. I've done that too, where I've gone like an entire season and not done any sort of lifting. But it will catch up to you, so we'll have to figure out when to put that back in. And just in general, like what I find is that, and you both have heard this, if you're in your season and you're lifting, something's gonna give usually, and it's gonna be your body. And so I tend to not have the two together. So it's gonna be like when things kind of, especially with like speed work. If you're doing speed work and you're lifting, most people are going to get hurt. At least that's what I see. I feel a little more durable now, but I just think all the stuff that I've been doing has just made me like crazy strong. I could probably lift in season. I don't know. Might try it. Might be my own little experiment to see if I break myself.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I think I'm sorry. Go ahead, Matt.
I was going to say, when you do lift, what are you doing? Are you doing TRX, Vince, or are you lifting heavy?
I don't think I ever lift really heavy, but I'll do things that like I would never do squats in season. Mm-hmm. It just I seem to get hurt every time I do stuff like that. But I would do it out of season. And right now I'm trying to just stay out of the gym period, so I'm trying to figure out everything that I can do in the house. So like I was trying to strengthen up my hip flexors, and there's this exercise where you can strap, do the cable pull with the strap. And I was like, but I got to go to the gym to do that. So I couldn't figure out, I was like, how can I do this and not leave the house? And I bought those carpet slider things and doing mountain climbers on the floor. That's right, we were in your house, so we were talking about it. Well, I bought those, and I do those now. And so, but I like that because I don't have to go to the gym. I'm looking to save time, and especially you as well. You're trying to figure out how you can fit all this stuff in and like go to work and have a job and stuff like that. And the gym's a little farther and a little more inconvenient. It's in the opposite direction. So like I actually pass it when I'm going to my office, and I'm passing it when I'm going home. So in order to go to the gym, I've actually got to go back the other way. Well, so there's another half an hour to 45 minutes, and so I just and I know people there. So if I get hung up there, then then I talk to them, and then I lose another half an hour. So I'm just, if I can do it in the house, if I had Maria and John have basically just converted their whole house into a gym.
Pretty much.
Spinning studio, weight room, chickens. I don't know what their
chickens.
Is.
They're all part of the gym. The chickens.
Yeah.
But yeah, I have to second that. I think there's a lot of things you can do from home, especially if you're willing to invest in a few really inexpensive tools. You don't need to get a bench. You don't need to get a weightlifter. You can Swiss ball. Or a stability ball. You want one of those. Some bands, some hand weights, whatever kind of other stuff you want. The monkey climber things that you're using, Vince, or whatever. If you want to get a TRX, that's fine, but you don't have to do that kind of stuff. There's so much stuff you can do with just your body that is strength, and that's why that list I put in the docs. There's so many different options you can do. That go beyond just weightlifting. Although, I do think that weightlifting has its place, and if you can make it fit because that's the whole thing. It has to go back to this balance of time. If you can make it fit, that's great. If it's getting in the way, there's a lot of stuff you can do at home. A lot of stuff.
Yeah, in my living room, that's where we like do the majority of our like in-house work. I have dumbbells. I've got a foam roller. Got a yoga mat. I've got this pad that I can put my knee down on if I'm doing if I'm stretching my quads. I've got the Swiss ball. I've got bands. It's like there's a lot of stuff you can do with that. Mm-hmm. And I have this binder that's like sitting on our coffee table, and I can just like flip pages and find new things to do because I'm like, oh, these exercises look great, and I print them out and I put them in the binder. And I'll kind of rotate things through. But I have my staples that are specific to what I think is a problem. So I had some knee problems last year. and so now I really like stretch out my quads because it's my quads are so overdeveloped. They pull up on my kneecaps, and then I don't track correctly, and so that's like a staple workout right now. Whereas before, it was something else or whatever. I was actually thinking of buying a Vasa trainer though. Have you seen those?
Whoa, yeah.
Yeah, but I started adding up all the parts on it, and I was like, "Holy crap, that's expensive!" Because I want the platform on the bottom because you can do strength stuff on it now, and it's sort of compact, and you can like work upper body with it. So I was like, "That's kind of cool."
How effective is it? Have you ever used one? I've never used one.
I know a coach that was a big fan of it for swimming. He said it's about the closest thing that you can get to swimming. And I was thinking that would be pretty cool, go into the pool without actually touching water. Because I just hate the water in the winter.
Yeah. Oh, it's tough right now. It's tough right now. Let's talk about 32 degrees frost on the cars this morning. Can we talk about that? Yeah, it's terrible.
I love California.
You know what? That's it. That's fine. I'm not. I was gonna say something mean, but I'm not.
No, I grew up in Wisconsin. I know cold and.
It's terrible here now. It's terrible here.
Oh,
it started.
Pumpkin.
Speaking of terrible thing,
do you need a hug?
I do.
This is a very emotional podcast.
It is.
Well, speaking of snow, I was gonna. We should talk about because I think we always talk about training, but do you have fun stuff you do in the off season that's not? You mentioned.
Ooh. Can I go? Go
ahead, Vince.
He's gonna have
to. I bought snowshoes that are specifically designed for running, and they will be here probably this week. And my plan is, because we're talking about things that you can do that aren't necessarily swim, bike, run. I don't know how much actual running I'm going to be doing in the snow, so it's probably going to be more like snowshoeing. But I was thinking, that's probably a good off-season thing for me to do. It's got to be a lot harder than hiking. I can imagine. So I'm looking forward to that.
We live in California.
I know, but if you go up towards Lake Tahoe, there's that white stuff.
It's like, man, it's like 55 this morning.
I know, but I'm just I don't know if this is going to be like this, but I envision going up to Yosemite, like after a snow, and I think that I can like run on the valley floor because these things aren't like the gigantic snowshoes, so it's not going to work in deep powder. But I think it'll work for kind of fresh powder that's got pack underneath it. So I just think like running all around Yosemite Valley. I don't know. We'll see. I could go up there and be like, "There's no snow. I bought these stupid things and I can't even use them."
Snowshoes are so fun. I don't
used them.
I don't have running ones like you have. I just have the regular old snowshoes. I love them. So John and I used to ski. I have not skied since the winter before I did my first Ironman because so afraid to get hurt because I was not raised skiing, and I'm also afraid of heights. So for me, skiing was like the thing I did until we could go to the lodge and drink warm beverages. Like that was I just did it because everyone else was doing it that I was with, and I'm like, well, what else am I gonna do? I'll be pretty drunk if I don't ski, so I should probably go ski. And I got okay at it. I was never great. I don't have that kind of like go fast gene or go fast enjoyment. So for me, the snowshoeing is just my speed. So this year we're actually planning to go up to Vermont in January, and while everyone's skiing, I'm going to snowshoe up to the top of the mountain and
You're one of those
down.
people. Oh yeah.
Yeah, I'm pretty excited. I really like it though. We've done hikes with snowshoes. I enjoy it. I like the quiet more than anything. I mean, obviously snowshoeing up a ski mountain isn't going to be super quiet, but when we've done it back on like where John's family's house is up in Vermont, there's a lot of snowmobile trails, so you can go back there and there's nobody. I mean, the snowmobiles come, but it's not like a highway or anything. You might see one set the whole time you're out there, and it's so quiet and it's so peaceful. I really like it a lot. I enjoy it.
And what are you going to do, Matt?
On my Google Doc, I've written down. So right now I've gotten really into Ashtanga yoga. Not too seriously, but I do yoga a lot. My girlfriend teaches, so I tend to do that a bit. But I'm doing Ashtanga yoga is really disciplined. It's just the same. There's a couple of series you do, and It's very repetitive. There's no music. It's just focusing and breathing. So I've been really trying to focus a lot on that. And not doing it too hard, just to do it. So that's my kind of one this year. I do snowboard a lot, so I do try in the winter to get away from biking and running, and I snowboard, which I've been doing my whole life. So I'm not exactly afraid of the chairlift, but I do understand why that could be scary. And then one year, this was actually a really fun year. After I got hurt running a marathon like 3 or 4 years ago, I tried to.
Wasn't my fault.
It wasn't your fault, Vince. No, it wasn't. I'm not sure why I got hurt that year. But I tried doing the splits. I tried to learn how to do the splits. It was some yoga instructor had this plan, and I just tried to follow along for a month or two. And I took a before and after picture. I probably can pull those up somewhere, but I improved slightly. I would not say I could do the splits.
I thought you were going to tell me you could touch the floor.
I am nowhere close to doing the splits, but I can. I got a little closer to the floor. But it was a lot of fun. Like those sorts of things, like picking. I like to have like a goal, like a really specific challenge, and that was like doing the splits was mine. So.
I love yoga. Huge fan.
Yeah.
I'm trying to go. There's a place. It's literally right here.
Why do you go? Don't go. That's
good for your body.
But that's something you can do at home.
I know, but they have this thing where I can go for I can go for 90 days as much as I want, and they have all these different classes. So I figure I can get a wide variety, and it's literally like out the door. I just walk downstairs and it's right there. So I figure I'll do it for like 90 days, and then I can figure out what I like. And
it's beautiful. It's one of the best things I've done. I've been doing like 5-6 years now, almost daily, and just a little bit every day. I don't go to class. I rarely go to class. I only go to class if Jackie's teaching. But man, doing that every day just for like 5-10 minutes even is huge.
Mm-hmm. I like to do it as a warm up before my whatever my session is. I like to do it as particularly before running, because it really just wakes everything up. It gets that neuromuscular activation. I really like it for that. But before I started doing triathlon and I was just a runner, I used to do yoga, and I would go to class like 4 or 5 times a week. I used to be able to do a split.
Whoa.
I know. I am so far from even remotely being able to do a split. There's the biking body.
Yeah, biking destroys that. Biking ruins it.
It's actually not even the running, because I was running a lot when I used to go. It's the bike.
The bike kills your hamstrings. Yeah, I can do the upside down stuff. I can do like headstands and stuff like that pretty easily, but I cannot getting my legs like spread. Oh my god, it is so tight.
We got to get She-Ra on the show, because she's like Stretch Armstrong. That girl, you could just go, oh, okay, touch the floor, and she'll just bend over and palm the floor, and she could go farther, and she can split and everything else. And I'm like, how do you do that? This is insane. She's made out of rubber bands,
Yeah. Well, she doesn't bike.
No, she bikes. This is my wife.
Oh, she bikes?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Oh, God, yeah. Man, how does she do that?
I have no idea. She is just, and she's less flexible. She can take her leg and put it over the back of her head. I know.
Yeah, no way.
Yeah, no. I'm like 3 feet off the floor trying to split.
Yeah, I know, me too.
Like, that's as far as I go.
It's kind of one of those hopeless things. All right. Anything else you guys want to? I have next season on the list of things. Would you guys like to talk about planning next season?
Sure.
How do you? What do you have a strategy when you look at? I know Vince, you mentioned you go like 3 years out, but maybe once you've decided, what do you do? Like, do you sign up for races right away? How do you plan that out?
Well, you kind of have to, or at least you did. It seems like Ironman's not selling out so much anymore. But typically, you figure out what's that anchor race. So for somebody that's looking at, say, September Ironman.
What would that be?
Which one are you doing, Matt?
Wisconsin again. Come on, Redemption.
Oh, Wisconsin. Okay.
This would be my third time Redemption.
Third time's a charm.
Third time's a charm.
There's no limits on Redemption.
It's Groundhog Day. Yeah, so that's your anchor race, and then you just kind of backfill in. I know we've talked about this before, so I like something 8 weeks out. Typically like a half Ironman, and then within 8 weeks there's the simulations that are building towards the race, and then especially anybody that's looking for Kona, I'm a big fan of doing two Ironman in the same season. So then you're again looking for something maybe 8 weeks behind that if it's possible. I don't like anything that's smaller than a half Ironman for an Ironman. Pretty much, I don't like anything that's smaller than half of the distance for whatever the A race is. And then that's just basically try to figure out what complements it. And it's funny because Scott sending, I know Scott watches this and he sends me emails. He's like, okay, I'm not signing up for 20 different things, but these are the things that I'm looking at. And he actually sent me an email, and I was like, dude, this is perfect right here. Don't do anything else. If you maybe find something here, but other than that, this is it, locked in. So because he and I were, and a lot of people are like this. You want to do like all these, you wants to do all the races. And you can't. You just got to figure out what complements, your A race.
I think the conversation I have the most with the people I coach is just what Vince said. No, you can't do all these races. I mean, you can do. Okay, so there's a couple different ways to think about it. If you just want to kind of do some stuff where you want to see how many things you can cram into a season, fine. And if you don't care about performance, and you don't care about PRs, and you don't care about how fast you go, and you also don't care about injury, that's great. But if you really care about that race you care about for UMatt, Wisconsin, you can't be, and I'm not saying you do this, I'm just using that as an example. You can't be doing all this racing going into Wisconsin. And you also have to be careful about what you're doing after it, because your body needs to recover out of that. You've put a lot of time and energy into that. And for me, so 2014, I was like a wet dish rag at the end of that season. I mean, I was like, I am so done.
You were cranking so hard, and we were stringing stuff together pretty tight.
And that's what I'm saying. We were. So you have to kind of be careful what you're doing after races too. And granted, for me, in my case, I would never have said I'm going to do Lake Placid and Louisville 4 weeks later, and then I'm going to turn around and do I would never have planned it that way, but that's the way it had to be, right? And again, in 2014, trust me, I did not want to go back to Louisville. It was like it took some. Vince and John both had to do the hard sell on me, because I was like, I'm fucking done. Like I said, I was like, I quit. I'm done, Ironman. I'm done. I need a break. John was like, I think you just need some time. Yeah, and Vince is like, are you sure? So it's hard. You got to kind of be thinking about how you string this together. So I have to really second what Vince has said, even though my later years in triathlon don't really demonstrate this fact.
Do as I say and not as I do.
Those were all Hail Mary passes, right? Like that was sort of like I'm not giving up, but I would never plan the season that way. I think it's really important to very careful. If you care about that A race or that anchor race, I think really at most you can have 2 a season, and to properly prep for it and recover out of it and be ready for that. Not that you can't have breakout performances that you weren't expecting. That does happen, but you can't count on it. Like you just can't count on that.
Yeah, odds are not in your favor of doing that.
They're not. I mean, you're gonna. In some cases, you might mentally burn out before you physically burn out. I think I was more mentally burnt than I was physically burnt, because it's so much to sort of gear up and ramp in. Like I had an athlete that did Maryland this year. That was tough, right? Like I was pretty proud of her, because you go into that race, they cancel it, right? Like, okay, it's canceled. Now you got to train for 2 or 3 more weeks and turn around and then they shorten the swim, and it's 37 degrees and it's all sorts of crazy shit. That's hard to do. That's more mentally taxing than it is physically taxing. And I think you have to account for that when you create your season. Every time you race, you're just taking a little bite, and you want to make sure before you take more bites, you restock your pantry. I don't even know if this makes sense anymore. It's so late for me.
Okay.
No, I mean that's the thing that I harp.
It's not that. It's can't be that.
That's the thing that I harp on the most is like you keep going to this this mental piggy bank, and you're taking withdrawals and you're not replenishing it. And that was back to the beginning of this podcast where I was saying like I strung all these seasons together and I was just so fried. Physically I could keep going, but mentally I was like, I need a break. And especially as you get closer to the front of the field, you're working so much harder, and I think you're just withdrawing so much more. and you definitely need to take that break. And for me, it's just completely drop and swim and bike. I mean, one year I had my bike still in the box in December from Kona, and it was like this buddy of mine was like, "Hey, you want to go for a ride?" And it's the only time that like we can ride together because I'm out of shape and he's in shape. And I was like, "Yeah, let's go for a ride." And I pulled my bike out of the box, and my cranks had seized up. The bearings had like seized up. I was like too much crap coming off the bike going into the bearings, and I just let that set for October to December. And but that, I mean, I just leave it in the box and I don't even pull it out. I'm like, I don't want to see it. Just stay in there. So yeah, definitely need to fill the pantry, as Maria said. I like that.
How do people? I've heard of people successfully racing to train basically, or race a whole bunch and then train. Have you ever had a case racing a whole bunch and then having successful big races after that? Do you ever recommend like
Well,
lots of C races or something like that?
You got to be willing to dial it back. So I did 3 Ironman one year. I did Coeur d'Alene. I got my slot. I went to Kona. I dialed it back, and then I went into Arizona, a month later and qualified again. But I didn't use Kona as a race. I used it as a training day.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you're fit enough to do that, then yeah, obviously there's a benefit to it. That was my big sim. And that was like, it was a PR, at Arizona, although Arizona's fast. But I mean, that was a great race for me. And I just think that if you can do that, but like, who is Hillary Biscay, the one that does like 9 Ironman a year?
Yeah, I've heard of people like pros that do that, and I'm always fascinated. How the heck? When do they train?
Maybe they don't.
Okay.
I mean, Pam Reed, we met her at Javelina, and she was asking me what my biggest week was. Pam Reed's won Badwater twice and done it like 10 times, and basically all she ever does is race. And she was asking me about my biggest training week, and I said, well, it was this. And she's like, well, that's crazy. I would never do that. And I said, yeah, Pam, but you race every weekend, and you're doing hundreds, So that's all she does. So if you were doing something like that, you probably wouldn't train much in between it.
And I think I think that's not typical for most people.
No.
I'm going to go out on a limb.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think I could do 9 Ironman a year. I think it was her that was like pretty much what her staple was for a year, was just like cranking out a whole bunch of Ironman races. I don't think I could do that. I don't think I could do it mentally and physically. I don't think I could pull it off.
Mm-hmm.
I know a guy. There's a guy. His name is Ray Sanchez, and he's in my age group for ultras, and he'll literally like go race 100 the following weekend, and he races hundreds all the time. You probably pull him up on ultra sign up, and the guy just runs them back to back to back, and he's like, and he's the nicest guy in the world, really humble, really soft spoken, and I'm like, Ray, how do you do this? He's like, well, I just do it because I'm addicted to them. It's like, oh my God, it's crazy. I'm addicted to them too, but I can't do one like the following weekend.
I could barely do a 5-mile run right now, and it's been 3 weeks.
Yeah, it gets better.
Yeah, I started swimming and biking again, so it's all right.
I've been running. My first few. I mean, I think I was running a couple weeks after, but I was running like 10, 30-minute miles. I ran into Matt. I hit Matt. I see this guy coming out. He's got an Ironman Wisconsin shirt. I'm like, oh, who's this guy? He's running all fast, looking at Mr. Ironman. And I'm like, oh, it's Matt. Hi. And so I was like, I'm running like 10, 15-minute miles. He's running like 7.
Yeah,
I'm down to 9-minute miles right now, though.
Oh, good.
Yeah,
getting a little better.
I'm still doing my 3 to 5 miles, and that's good. I'm mostly just trying to swim and bike, trying to remember that I need to be a triathlete again soon.
Yeah, a double Ironman.
Yeah, March 18th. Whoop whoop.
Oh, you got to train. You're March 18th. You're going?
Yeah, Florida.
Just gonna whip that one out.
I mean, whip it out would be awesome. I've got some.
Squeeze in a double Ironman in March.
I'm looking right beyond the computer. Obviously, you guys can't see it, but hanging on my wall are already my good day scenario, my great day scenario, and my best day scenario. I've already got it planned. Looking at it, seeing is believing.
What is this?
Especially that best day scenario. Okay, so every race I do, I can't believe you don't know this, Vince. Every race I do, I create 3 scenarios, right? So some people may call it A, B, C goals, your basic, whatever. So I have already mapped out for the Florida double my good day scenario, my great day scenario, and my best day ever scenario. And I will not tell you anything about
I
those.
was just about to ask. Sorry.
No, sorry.
I guess I can't.
Not. They're mapped out, but not to be shared with the world.
I wasn't questioning what you were saying. I was looking at the spreadsheet, and what is this? Vince is going to have a sub 14 to win 100. What the hell? Is that something you just put in, or is that something that was in here?
Matt put that there.
Was that just now, or was that?
No,
We're
it's
going to
just
talk
now.
about that.
We're going to talk about that in a second.
Wow, what does that even come out to be in a pace?
Well, we'll talk about that in a second. Hold on.
Okay, sorry.
Since this was the most structured one we've had so far, obviously.
Because we come off the rails a lot.
Maria, would you like to wrap us up? Take us on home?
Okay, yeah. So we talked a little bit about what you can do in your off season. When in doubt, run a marathon, because that seems like the obvious thing to do. But no, seriously, for athletes looking to be at the pointy end of the podium, definitely think about that run. And that run strength, especially because you've already got that. If you're just starting or you're sort of at an intermediate level, your focus, think about durability and think about where your durability needs to be. And think about your skills and where your skill set is. Your strength training, make that appropriate to what your needs are as well as the time of the season. It's not always about picking things up and putting them down. And next season, please don't race too much. Don't make your coach crazy.
Because they're already crazy.
Because they're already a little bit nuts. Pick an A race, stick with it, and structure your season around that. If we are sticking with the our Google Docs, I think we're going to talk about our race calendar a little bit more next time. But for now, let's talk about what we learned in the past 2 weeks. Matt, what did you learn?
Well, back to this is what I'm learning for the past month now, I guess. Eating and sleeping is critical to my performance. I've gotten faster on only 6 hours of training, but like averaging 9 hours of sleep.
Sweet.
So
This is 6 hours of really hard running.
Of really hard running, but if I just sleep a lot, that seems to settle in well.
Yes.
Also, I've learned that looking at the results from the Javelina 100, it's like Peter Giblin? Paul Giblin. One is a beast, but to beat him, Vince, for your 2017 goal of winning a 100, you're going to have to go sub 14.
No, I'm not winning 100.
I think I heard him say he's going to win 100, Maria, wasn't that right?
I think he said he's going to win 100 miles.
What was his pace? He
finished in 13:49. So
damn.
What's that pace? What's that pace come out to be?
Marathon. I don't know what that came out to. Sorry.
So I can tell you. So to not go off the deep end and actually bring this back to reality. Normally, what I would do is I would look for, so when I was doing Ironman and my focus was on that, the my version of win was like going out and finding the non-branded race and doing well at that. And I think that's a big confidence booster. It's okay. So it's not like an Ironman, but I did really well in this. And I think you need those wins because if you can do that, kind of props you up and you feel stronger mentally. And then when you start, getting a little bit faster and you start moving into the branded races where the competition's a little more fierce, then kind of helps you there.
It's an 8:15, Vince.
8:30.
8:15. How old was he?
38.
Who was the first 40 to 49? I think he was fast too, though.
Carl Meltzer.
Meltzer. He's a pro.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah. Well, but I mean, he's not a pro anymore, but he's an ex-pro. He's the guy that Speed Goat 50, I believe.
John Olson. 40.
He's the most winningest 100-mile runner ever, Carl Meltzer.
And he probably has the most hundreds underneath his belt. So I don't want.
He had bib 1, and then John Olson had bib 2. So that probably. Chuck Radford had bib 351. And he's 44.
And what was his time?
He got 11th overall, and he did 1754.
Okay, that's a better target for me.
Sub 18.
Thank you. Thank you.
What was it? You did 1920. Yeah, you could do sub 18. No problem.
Yeah.
Jeez, 14 hours.
Can you imagine? Dude, he was done like when it's still light out.
Oh my God.
That's amazing. Well,
Like-
it wasn't light out because of the time. It was.
What time did you guys start?
6, 7. What the hell time did it start?
6 a.m. 6
Yeah,
a.m.
so we finished
Yeah.
at like a little before 8.
Yeah, but it was dark.
Yeah.
Oh, it
Just
was
'cause of
dark.
the time of year.
Oh.
Time of year.
But you
Time of
did
year.
get to bed at a reasonable hour. How about that?
Yeah. Talking about sleep, I went to sleep at 10 of 9 last night. It was like magic.
And tonight not happening.
Tonight, not. I hope to get in bed by 10 of 10. This is crazy.
Okay, so tell me when we're done because I have one more thing that I want to.
We're done.
Okay, so since we were talking about Maria's Training Peaks notes, I just randomly pulled up.
All right, let's read one. This is good.
Okay, so this is from a race back in June of 2013. I'm just going to read this one paragraph. I passed 14 women in my age group on the run. I didn't even notice them all. Ha 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 ha. Not everyone had their age on their calves, fuckers. That's enough. No, we're not bitter.
Oh my God.
Wow, a little aggressive.
We're going to call it, this is classic Maria.
Oh, we gotta finish every episode like that. That's amazing.
I know. That's what I was thinking. I could just randomly select a gem while we're doing this and then
We should
read
be
it
like a
aloud.
roulette. We should just like randomly flick through Training Peaks and select a random day and just see what we get.
Oh my God! But see, she's predictable, so I know that if I find like a really hard bike workout, or if I find like a run where she really nailed it, or like a race, I can find some gold in there.
The funny thing about him reading that is I was looking at my Training Peaks comments, and I also randomly selected that race, and I read the whole thing.
We're right here.
We really are. Vince and I are actually pretty in sync with each other. And the rest of the comments, I'm glad you stopped it there because it just there's a lot of bitches and hoes and all kinds of shit.
You're a gangster rapper.
There's no hoes, but
You're
there's
just angry. Jeez.
well, it's not angry, Matt. It's more competitive. See, I feel like you read it as angry because of my gender, right? But if it was a male, I'd be like, yeah, look, he's so aggressive and assertive. But
I don't. Oh my God! Turn the sexist. I was just.
Wow.
I don't know, Vince. If I ever called anyone a bitch or
No.
a
No.
you
homo.
haven't, Matt. You haven't, Matt. Absolutely not. I'm just playing with you. I'm just playing. I am aggressive. It's true.
That was intimidating. I'd be scared. Like,
Don't be scared. Don't be scared.
No,
we've
because
learned-
you're not in her age group. Don't be scared.
No.
man,
No.
I feel like women who are should watch out for being tripped or something when like you take a wide girth. Watch out.
No.
The end, episode 5. We'll be back in 2 weeks, 2.5 weeks. We did this one early because of Turkey Day.
Yep.
And we're all going to be doing stuff. It's been a pleasure.
Thanks, guys. Happy Thanksgiving.
It's Matt.
Maria.
Vince? Oh, was there an order to this?
No, it should have been you next, Vince. I preempted.
See.
My aggressiveness again.
Yeah, there you are.
All right, it's Matt.
Vince.
And Maria.
Signing
Ta-da.
off.